I'm Tree and this is Stitchless TV sewing channel. Now, as many of you already know, this year I'm going to be doing lots of different courses in sewing techniques and embroidery and maybe a little bit of new technology. And today I'm going to talk to you about an amazing course I went on at the London College of Fashion. It was to learn this technique developed by this guy called Julian Roberts, who's created this pattern cutting technique called subtraction pattern cutting. And look, I've got a certificate and everything. Now, using this technique, you very easily end up with results like this. Now, this is probably quite an extreme version of it, but look, you very easily create these amazing style lines, draping. It's such a great technique, and I'm going to show you a simplified version of it today. Now, to use this subtraction pattern cutting technique, you basically have to create a single duvet. Now, Julian recommends that your single duvet shape is 1 metre wide by 3 metres long, but I feel that that's a bit too much. For my single duvet today, the width is 90 centimetres and I've got it 1 metre 50 centimetres long. So that's 90 centimetres wide and 150 centimetres long. Now, it's a very good idea to have two different fabrics, one on one side and one on the other side. So you'll cut out two of those rectangles and then you just stitch them up, stitch them along the long side and then stitch them along the other long side and then stitch it across the top. But remember to leave a big opening, just like a single duvet. Now, at this point, I would say overlock your edges or zigzag your edges, because it's going to be very difficult to do it once it's made up and all kind of draped. Now, I know you can see that I've got kind of patches going on, but that's because I used fabric that's usually used for making ties and it wasn't wide enough. But I think that that will just make it look more interesting. Now, when you've done that, you've got to turn it the right way round and then I'm going to make you press it, even though Julian Roberts says that he's not so big on pressing. He likes the fabric to fall just however it's going to fall. Now, this subtraction pattern cutting technique can be applied to all different shapes. So you could do it to a raglan sleeve top like this. You could do it to a regular top with long sleeves. You could probably do it to a kind of boob tubey type shape, but I would say whatever you do, you kind of probably want it to be a little bit fitted around this area. But the shape that he recommends starting with for your first subtraction pattern cutting dress is a vest top shape. So I recommend that you trace out your favourite vest top, but you only need it to go to about here, kind of a high waist level. Now, this is very important. Take a look at where I've placed the pattern, because knowing how it all ends up looking, I've consciously placed it in this way. I've put my front here, knowing that I'm going to get this as a diagonal line across the front, so I get a bit of a contrast. And I've put my back on the end, the sealed up end of the single duvet shape, knowing that I'm going to end up with a bit of a peplum shape. So the back is on the end of the duvet, the closed up end, and the front is diagonally going into the side seam. And my shoulders are sort of interlocking each other, the front and the back. Now this is what you do. So you draw out your pattern. Now my pattern already has some seam allowances on it, I think. So you draw out your pattern, but you don't go all the way down on your pattern. So I'm just coming down about 2 or 3 inches, and then I'm going to curve around here, and then I'll start drawing around my back piece, and I'm going to come the same 2 or 3 inches down there, and then I'm going to curve that. Now I don't want to be too close to here because it will make it difficult to sew, but I'm just going to curve around like this. So I'm a couple of inches, oh gosh, 3 centimetres away from that fold at the edge because it will make it difficult to sew otherwise. And I've curved around here to join my front to my back. Now that becomes a side seam. Now look what happens when I do the other side. So I've had to move my fabric over a little bit because it doesn't fit on my table. So with this side, it was quite a small, look how I joined together the side seams. I came down a little bit and then I went around in this sort of scoopy shape. Looks like a big ear. Now for this side, it's a much bigger distance that I'm drawing. So you're basically joining together both of the sides, but using a big sweeping curve, probably a bit better than mine. And these shapes here become the side seams. Now I'm going to get rid of all my tins so I can show you what it looks like. So you end up with this, which is pretty strange, isn't it? Now, very important, super, really important. You do not cut them out of both layers. You only cut it out of one layer only. So starting might be a bit tricky. So I'm just going to pull up one layer and hopefully I'm just cutting through one. So only one layer. So I'm just going to cut all around wherever it is that I've chalked out. So I've cut it out of just one layer. So I remove the layer that I've cut out. So when I remove the layer that I've cut out, I end up with this. Now I know it's hurting your brain. It hurt mine as well, but it is amazing. But you can see that here is one vest top, this is the front, and this is the back. And in fact, I think I'm going to mark them. So I'll mark the front, so this is my front. So I'm marking it on the wrong side, and then this is my back. Now you wait and see what happens when we start stitching them together. It's such magic. Now we have to turn our fabric the wrong way round. So we've got to turn this single duvet inside out. But before you do that, hold on to one of your shoulders of your vest top so you can keep track of it. So I've turned it inside out, and I'm just going to treat it like I would a normal vest top, and I'm putting the fabric right sides together, and I'm going to stitch up the shoulders. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. Now when you are stitching up your shoulders, your fabric is right sides together. Just in this situation, don't go backwards and forwards. Use quite a large stitch because we're just doing it like a stay stitch. I just want to hold the shoulders together, because afterwards when the dress is completely made, I'm going to undo those shoulders probably so that I can create a facing for the vest top. Look, even just stitching up the shoulder seams, you can already see it taking shape. It really is amazing. So look, that's my front at the moment, and then my back has got this sort of interesting peplum thing going on. What we have to do now is we have to stitch up the side seams. So they are your shoulders, okay? That's your armhole of your vest top, and then we come to that strange shape. So one side, so I'll work on this side. So shoulders, armhole. One of my sides was quite short. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to match up the under the armpit, beginning of that seam. I'm going to come down and I'm just going to stop wherever it finishes. So I don't need any pins. So starting at the side seam underneath the armpit, I don't need notches, don't need pins, don't need anything, because wherever it stops is where it stops. So I'm working to a centimetre seam allowance, and I'm just matching up all the seams and working away all the way down to wherever it is that it naturally stops. Backwards and forwards at the end. Now if we have got a curve, we are supposed to snip into our curves, aren't we? So I'm just going to snip into it a little bit, just to make sure it lays nicely. And then you need to do exactly the same to the other side. Now when we do the other side, do you remember it was much longer because there was a bigger curve, wasn't there? So for this side seam, where is it? So I match the side seams together that were underneath the armpit, and I'm going to sew all the way along there until it just stops. So I've got it folded together, I put the seams together, right sides together, and I'm going to go all the way to the end using a straight stitch. When you've done that, when you've done those side seams and you've snipped into where there's a bit of a curve, don't overlock it just yet, because you might want to play around with the shape of it afterwards. So should we have a look? It's one of those really exciting moments. So I'm going to turn it the right way round now. So that's all we've done. We haven't done anything else. And already you can see it take it. So that's the back. That's amazing. That is amazing. I'm going to put it on the dummy just so you can have a really good look at it. It's a bit good, isn't it? So we hardly did anything for it to arrive at this really interesting shape. So look, the back. The back's really interesting, but you can sort of manipulate it and play around with it. But I want to show you a couple of things, because I think it would be interesting for you to know where the original seams are. So this is the line that was the stitched up end of the duvet, so it's going along here, okay, and this is what I mean, it forms this sort of peplumy effect at the side. Now this seam here is, so that's that really long side seam. Do you remember one of them was really long and curved and the other one was short. So that's the long one. And you just sort of stuff it in like that and you get all that draping. But also what you could do, if you didn't like all the bulk, then you could always trim some of it back, take it back so you didn't have so much fullness. But for now, I'm just going to push it all in. So on the other side here, we've got that short seam. So that's the short side. So you can pull that out and do things like that to it, or you can just push it inside and effectively it's a brilliant pocket. I think it's a fantastic way of creating a really quick, edgy garment. But I still think I'd probably make mine a bit narrower. 90 centimetres is probably still a bit too wide for this particular one. But look at that. Now you can also, if your starting pattern comes up high and it has regular armholes, or maybe the raglan sleeve pattern, you can, once you've made this interesting shape, just cut it down the front, create facings, and then make it into an amazing coat. I think I might have to do that. But for ideas on how to finish off the vest top shape, you can look at my tank top video where I show you how to finish off a top similar to this using ribbing. Or if you want to finish it with facings, then you can have a look at my video on how to finish a top or dress with facings. Now there is another process that we can do to create even more of an interesting shape. But I'll show you that again soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching Stitchless TV. Now don't forget to look at the Facebook page, and if you have a go at some subtraction pattern cutting techniques, I want to see them. So send me some photos or share them on my Facebook page. See you again very soon. Bye bye.